I thought that the West is analytical, emphasis on logic, mathematics, reason, rationality, quote unquote, and then the East is more experiential
Mhm.
and airy fairy or loosey goosey, but more in touch with the present moment. Adnan said no, materialism is actually more prevalent in the East than idealism. And I had no idea. Then he told me about the history that the Indian prime minister made idealism the pizza of India, meaning that in Italy, when we think of that, we think of pizza. We just, well, not if you're cultured enough and erudite, etc. But as a stereotype, you think of pizza when you think of Italy. Like, I can't wait to try the pizza there. It must be the best in the world. And he said that's what was the Indian prime minister made it an effort, a conscious effort to promulgate idealism, not only to the West, but to make the West think of idealism when they think of the East, and vice versa, or India. I think that the non-dualist and the physicalist make the same error of a left-brained error, and the non-dualist is unaware of it. So the non-dualist believes that they're like, no, it's creativity, it's originality, it's embracing, it has a hugging quality, and that must be the right brain. But no, the left brain, in Ian McGilchrist's work, is what's responsible for abstraction and seeing two objects as the same. So that's what it means to abstract, is you take out qualities that are similar to multiple instances, and then you start to manipulate those qualities. Well, that's being analytical. Racism is an abstraction problem because it's saying you as a brown person are the same as some other person who's brown. So what happens when you go to non-dual states can be seen as a pathology of the left brain, where everything is the same. Every single thing is the same. And the beauty of the right brain is that the right brain likes to see every instance as unique. Every little point is unique. Not only is this cup different than these earphones, but the left and the right are different than, it's not even the earphones. So this one is different than this one. And in fact, there are multiple facets to this cup. Furthermore, it's not just that the right brain or the right brain worldview is supposed to be what is championed, nor the left brain. The right brain had the wisdom to give the reins over to the left brain. So that's why the book is called The Master and His Emissary in Ian McGilchrist. So it's an interplay of both. In other words, what's the difference between the East and the West? I don't know. All I know is my watered down versions by people who think they're from the East but have grown up in the West, and that what they tell me about the East, and also what I research about the East, which is heavily filtered. So what I've said is meant to be interpreted through that lens.
Are your ancestors from India, or?
Yeah, if you go far back enough, it would be the West Indies.
Okay.
I'm from Trinidad.
I think mine is from Tamil Nadu in India. I think that's so far. I'm not even sure. We've been in South Africa for almost 200 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. We were brought from India as indentured laborers. Well, not we, but my ancestors, as indentured laborers, aka slaves, to cut sugarcane in South Africa. And so I've grown up fundamentally South African, which is very much influenced by American culture and Western culture. So I also have even though, because there's so many who came down from South Africa, it's a watered down version, but there's a section of South Africa that's called Durban. If you ever Google it, you'll see it's called
Durban.
Durban. So there's Johannesburg. There's three main cities in South Africa: Johannesburg, Cape Town. That's where Mark Solms is and a lot of great professors. And then there's Durban, which is in KwaZulu-Natal. And it's like a mini India, I swear. I think it's the largest city with Indians in the whole planet outside of India. So not country, but like city. The Indian population there is huge. So I was exposed because I grew up there. So I was exposed to a lot of the East in that sense as a child. And the philosophies were quite unique. And when I look back, I feel like I undermined and didn't really appreciate some of the philosophies that I was taught as a child back then, since starting this podcast, because prior to that, I was so focused on Western philosophers.
Yes.
Which is interesting in itself.
Something else about the East, but the Western East, is that I thought that meditation would dissolve your ego or make you less egotistical. Now, there's a difference. This is when I spoke to Roy Baumeister, who is someone you should speak to. He's one of the most cited people, not just scientists, the most cited people on the planet, and he's alive. I remember I read his name so often in the psychological literature. So often I thought he was dead because it's so rare that someone is referenced this much and they're still alive. And he's alive and well. He studied. I don't know if he studied it, but he told me about these studies where if you get people to meditate, and they could be Zen Buddhists, but they have to be Western Zen Buddhists. This hasn't been done on Eastern Zen Buddhists. That rather than making you more selfless, you become more selfish. And how do they measure that? Well, they look at how long are you meditating for, and then there are different criteria like, are you willing to tie someone else's shoe before yours? Are you willing to, let me bring up the study, please, because it's super interesting, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind at all. That would be amazing. I'm trying to also think of other ways that could be shown. I'm trying to think. One of them is I've noticed that Western meditators tend to talk about meditation way too much, which can itself be the examples you're talking about. It's almost like now they're sort of virtue signaling the fact that they meditate. Which really nullifies.
They become obsessed with it as well. And it goes against the non-attachment. So, okay, Zen monks who are dedicated practitioners of meditation display a higher fear of death and less willingness to give up life-saving medicine compared to other groups, suggesting a strong attachment to self-preservation, maybe even a stronger sense of the self. So how does one make sense of this? Well, meditation increases self-awareness. Perhaps that can lead to heightened awareness that could lead individuals to becoming more conscious of their strengths and weaknesses, potentially resulting in a sense of superiority. There was something about superiority as well. That was a study from Gabor. So the study I just mentioned was Nina Strominger, and I can give you these links to put in the description if you like.
Thanks.
The study I'm about to say is from Gabor. Individuals who practiced meditation over weeks started to perceive themselves as superior to others in their meditation group.
It sounds.
So that's why there's a difference between ego and egotism. So their ego may be minimized, but their egotism, their inflated sense of their self-importance, self-centeredness increases.
No, and it sort of makes sense when you think about it. The East and West. It's so strange that it's bizarre that we even have to say that at this point. That it's become its own thing in itself. Which is more disappointing because when you chat to someone like Anand who understands the history behind the content, and gives you that context that you're looking for, it becomes super fascinating to see all the things we missed part of our cultural upbringing as Eastern Westerners, or Western Easterners. I'm mixing it up.
If you enjoyed this toe clipping, then the full video is linked in the description. You should also sign up for Toe Mail, which is again in the description and the pinned comment. You'll receive immediate access to all exclusive updates from the Theories of Everything podcast. It also helps me communicate directly with the core toe community. You'll also receive my top 10 toes. Think of it as the intellectual version of Quentin Tarantino's Obsession.